I'm making an obby from scratch on Hytopia and showing you every step of the process along the way, from before the first line of code is ever written all the way through to the final published game. If you don't know me, my name is Ash, and in this fourth video of our 5-part tutorial series, we are covering polish. We will be changing out all of our placeholder models, textures, and sounds, polishing our UI, and adding mobile controls. There will be a lot of useful tips in this video for anyone building a Hytopia game, even if you haven't been following along with this tutorial series. But if you have, then you already have all of the code for your game's core functionality complete, and you finished your map and integrated it into that code. So with all of that said, let's continue making an obby on Hytopia. So you may remember that while I've been working on this game, I've been using placeholder sounds and models, even textures, to keep from jumping around to a bunch of different type of tasks while I'm working. And I've been keeping a list of all of those placeholders that I need to change out later. So this video is really just a matter of going category by category and making those changes. So let's go ahead and start with custom models. You probably already know that Hytopia's aesthetic is that familiar blocky Minecraft-esque style, and this is great because it's easy to find assets in this style and also easy to make assets in this style. So first I'm going to run through some paid and free options for you, and then also do a quick overview of how you can make your own models for Hytopia. So for paid options, one of my favorite things to do is go to mcmodels.net, which is a marketplace of all different types of Minecraft models, and you can use the search bar there to browse for assets for your game. The key thing to keep in mind though as you're looking for models to purchase is that you'll need to make sure it comes with either a GLTF file format, a GLB file format, or the source file like a BB model file or something like that that you can open and then export into a GLTF or GLB file. Hytopia only supports those two type of file formats, so you want to make sure whatever you purchase is going to be compatible with Hytopia. Another option is you can go on Fiverr and hire an artist. You can look for like a Minecraft model or a Blockbench model or something. Just make sure they know that your model needs to be low poly, and maybe even send them the Hytopia asset guidelines to help them get an idea of the type of look that you're going for. For free options, you can sometimes find really good stuff on Sketchfab if you search for like Minecraft or low poly models. Just make sure that your model is low poly, because the higher the poly count, the longer it will take for your game to load. And then also make sure you pay attention to the license type. So if an artist has a model up for free on Sketchfab, there's usually going to be some type of license that tells you if you need to give attribution to the creator or if it can be used for commercial purposes and things like that. So make sure you pay really close attention to the licensing and also give proper credit to the artist for anything that you use that's free. Also, for free options, don't sleep on the Hytopia assets themselves. There's tons and tons of models in the Hytopia GitHub directory and also in the world builder that you can download. So definitely dig through there and see if there's stuff that you can use in your game. If you can't find what you're looking for or are just wanting to stretch your creative muscles, you can download the free program Blockbench and use that to create your models. There are tons of great Blockbench tutorials on YouTube that I can link below for you. This is not going to be a Blockbench tutorial, but I'm just letting you know that that is an option for you if you want to create your own models. The Hytopia dev docs have a good explanation of how to achieve a Hytopia look with your assets and with your texturing. So I'm going to also link that in the description. Definitely give that a good read before you get too far down the rabbit hole of making something yourself. And just remember that when you're done, you're going to want to export your model as a GLTF file to be able to integrate it into your game. Once you have all the models collected that you need for your project, you can start integrating them into your code. And you can either do this by replacing the old placeholder files that are already being referenced in your code, or you can just add the new models to the assets directory and edit your code to reference those new files. So I have all the new models ready for my game now, and I've used a combination of things I've made myself and also things that I've found. So an example of something that I found was I found this Minecraft trophy on Sketchfab. Just a little tip, if you're on Sketchfab looking for things, if you see this little download symbol, it means that the model is downloadable, obviously, but I always like to click inside of it anyways and just see how many triangles and vertices there are and make sure it's like a low number because it will work better with Hytopia. And then also when you click download 3D model, it'll bring up this information, including the credits that you can use to add to your game to make sure you properly credit the artist. So I have this model in the game, and then I've also made some things in Blockbench, like I've got this checkpoint model, for example. So let's take a look at what all of these look like now. So over here, this used to be that Mind Flayer guy, I think, and I just changed it out to this character model that I have. And then I changed out my skeleton that was back here to this volcano suit guy. And then these checkpoints used to be the jump pad placeholder, and now you can see that they're the model that I made inside of Blockbench. And then inside of my lava chamber, you can see this used to be the stair model, and now it's the supercharge station model. We used to have like a button, and I've got this cluster now. And then instead of the cookies we used to have everywhere, now we have these different colored gems that represent the different energy shards of different values. So that does it for models, and now we can move on to some custom textures. You may remember in the map making tutorial that I showed you how you can use the AI to create placeholder textures, but in my opinion, it's not good to leave these placeholder textures as your final textures. At the very least, I recommend doing some cleanup inside of Blockbench just to make them look a little bit nicer, but you do have some other options as well. So for paid options for textures, you can always hire an artist on Fiverr to make your textures. Just make sure they know that the resolution should be 24 by 24 pixels. For free options, you of course can always go with the Hytopia textures themselves. You can get them from the assets folder in the GitHub or from the world builder itself. And then you can also see them sometimes in the assets folder when you first initialize a project. For a do-it-yourself option on the textures, you of course can always use Blockbench. I have a tutorial already on this channel for how to do that, which I will link above and in the description. But let me open up Blockbench right now and I'll just give you a quick run through of that as well. So once you're in Blockbench, you can just go to generic model and we're going to create a new model. And you can just call this, textures or whatever you want to call it. And then the texture size right here is going to be 24 by 24. And I'm going to hit confirm. And then once this is open, we are going to want to add a cube into the workspace. So I'm going to hit this little arrow on the right-hand side next to the plus. And I'm going to say add cube. You can see the cube is there. And I'm going to change the size of this to be 24 by 24 by 24. And now that we have our cube, we can create a texture for it. So I'm going to select the cube and I'm going to go over here to create texture. And I'm going to change all the way over here to the right where it says blank. And then let's say I'm going to make my checkpoint texture. Let's just call it checkpoint. And I'm going to hit confirm. So now we've created the checkpoint over here on the right, but we haven't applied it to this cube. You technically don't need to apply it to the cube, but applying it to the cube will allow you to see what it looks like actually on a block. So to do that, we've got the cube selected. And over here on my texture, I'm going to right click it and I'm going to say apply to elements. And you can now see that this texture is on the cube. So there's two ways that you can edit this. You can go to the paint tab over here and you can start using these tools at the top to, create the texture. And I go over these tools in depth in that other tutorial that I mentioned. Or the other thing you can do is you can right click this texture and you can say edit in Blockbench. And that will pull open this canvas right here. And you can, anything that you do on this checkpoint image file right here will also be reflected in the actual workspace where we're working before. And then once you're done, you can just go over here to your file. You can right click it. You can say save as, and then you can find your project folder, go to the assets folder, go to blocks, and then we can just save this as, my new texture.png. And then if you open up your map file inside of Cursor, right at the top of your map file, you have your block registry, and you're going to want to make sure that whatever texture you created is properly referenced here in this registry. So texture-wise, the only thing that really changed between the map making tutorial and now is this block here used to be like a purple sparkly block, and I just changed it to be a yellow one because I thought it fit a little bit better. And I did that inside of Blockbench. I made this new yellow volcanic rock PNG. I saved this into my assets folder, which you can see here, blocks, yellow volcanic rock. And then in my map, you can see that I've got ID9 used to be that purple rock, and now I've changed it to be this yellow one. So now that we've talked about custom models and custom textures, I want to just quickly show you how you can upload your map back into the world builder to polish it up a little bit more. So if you go to build.hytopia.com, once you've got the world builder open, all you have to do is go to the cloud icon, hit import, and then we're going to want to import our map file. So I'm going to go find it in my assets folder. Volcano dash map, and I'm gonna hit open. So as you can see, the map loaded, but I'm missing a lot of my custom textures, right? Because I didn't have them in my world builder. So first I need to upload the missing textures. So I'm just gonna grab a few as an example. And then the next thing we're gonna do is go down here to the swapping tools, which is these two little arrows that are looking to the right and to the left. If you click on that, there's this little world that's the global remap tool. So click on that. And you can see it's got a list of all of the textures. So right now we've got lava sand is assigned to this texture that's missing. So all you have to do is click on that and it'll open up your options, including the new textures that you just uploaded. And once you have all those textures changed out, you can go ahead and continue editing your map and export it the same way we did before to integrate back into your project. So you can see here in this game, I finished polishing my map basically just by adding these mountains along the perimeter of the lava lake just to make it feel a little bit more immersive. And other than that, I really didn't change a whole lot on my map between the map making tutorial and now. Okay, moving on to custom sounds. In my opinion, sound design is one of the most important parts of any media, whether it be movies, shows, especially games. I feel like sounds can really make or break games, so make sure you give this step an appropriate amount of attention. There are a ton of paid options for sound effects. A quick Google search will bring up a lot of different options, and the best place for your game will completely depend on what you're looking for. So check out a few places like Envato, Epidemic Sounds, GameDevMarket.net. Just make sure that wherever you end up getting your sounds from, that you check into the usage license to make sure you are using the sounds according to the license that you have. For free options, places like Pixabay or Mixkit have some options, and there are also a lot of royalty-free sound effects YouTube channels as well. Just make sure you give proper attribution to the creators of these sounds when you're using them. They usually have like a license type or something in their description that explains how they'd like to be given credit for the sounds. For a do-it-yourself option, you can use your phone or something to record sounds around your house. This won't necessarily give you amazing results, but if you have like a really specific sound in mind, or you hear a sound in your house that you think would be really good, don't be afraid to experiment and try recording it and see how it turns out. You can use any DAW, which is a digital audio workstation, to edit this, including a simple one like the free program Audacity, just to like trim the start and end points, maybe adjust the levels or the EQ or whatever you might want to do with the sound. However you get them, once you have all of the sounds for your game collected, you can start integrating them into your code. And you can do this by, again, replacing the old files that you were using as placeholder files before, or you can just add the new files in and then edit your code to reference the new files. You're going to want to do a lot of testing with your sounds and play around with things like the cutoff distance and the volume to make sure that the sounds are sitting properly in the context of your game. So definitely spend some time just like running around, hitting different things that make sounds, and just make sure that everything sounds balanced and well distributed. So sound-wise in this game, I had a lot of work to do, and I still feel like I have a little bit more work to do, but I just want to go ahead and catch you up to where I am at. So I've got this Volcano Dash folder in my audio folder. So you can see all of these sounds in here are yellow because I've changed out all of these files to be the new sound files that I've made. And just to give you a run through of what these things are sounding like now, and I still have a little bit more work to do, I think, but you'll be able to tell that it's already sounding a lot better. So we have a new checkpoint sound now. And then also when I start the time mode, you can hear that sound. There's a new sound when you hit the lava. And then if we go into the lava rising mode, we've got a new sound for the energy cluster. We've got this sound for collecting these things. New sound for when you die, etc. So all these sounds obviously sound a lot better than it was sounding before, and I'm still going to do a little bit more work, but it's really just a matter of swapping out these sound files, loading it up, listening to how it sounds, and then adjusting volumes if I need to, and cutoff distances, which I haven't needed to do yet. Otherwise, I would show you how to do that. But if you go into the dev docs, you can go to audio and sound effects, and then there's some information here about spatial audio and how to control some playback effects. And then if you go to this audio API reference, you can see the rest of these properties that you can set, which are things like cutoff distances, whether or not it's going to loop, the reference distance, and so on. So keep in mind that you have a bunch of options when it comes to audio. I didn't need them in this game, so I'm not really going to go over them. All right, so with all of those things done, the next thing that we have to do is polish the UI. And pretty much every Hytopia developer that I talk to really dislikes this part. If you have a background in web development, this part may not be very daunting for you, but for me, I find this part to be the most tedious. But I have talked to one of the Hytopia devs, OX something, and he gave me a really good process that he uses that I actually quite like. So I'm going to go over that with you now, and hopefully it will help you not hate this part as much as most of us do. So you may remember when we were building our UI, we have all of these different components that make up our UI. And you're going to be really glad that you did this when it comes time to actually polishing your UI, because it's really organized and clean and easy to work with. But for each of these UIs, we need to make it, look a little bit better. So let's just take a look at what we're working with And let's just start with this timed mode since I have this up right now. So we've got 2 components as a part of this overlay for the timed mode. We've got the timer at the bottom and we have the checkpoint at the top. We need to determine how we actually want this to look. And if you're not a web developer, you have no experience designing, this might feel a little bit overwhelming. And what he recommended to me is just to go to an AI website building site and use that to kind of prototype some ideas. So I'm at lovable.dev and I'm going to use this site to come up with a bunch of different designs for me and try to find something that I like that I can use as a reference for Cursor to build out our final designs. So I said, please create 20 different ideas for a timer, like a stopwatch that is counting up for my game. The game is lava themed. Okay, so it's done now. It took about 3 or 4 minutes and it's got all these different timer options. All right, so I'm just going to prompt it one more time and I'm going to have it change the format to make sure it's including the milliseconds. And then I'm just going to have it do that for a few of them. I'm just going to eliminate some of these. So I like the split flap one. So now that I've got a design that I like, I'm going to ask it to create some additional components that I need for my game using this same style. So I'm asking it to make the timer, which it already has, a checkpoint counter, a text box that says press E to start timed mode, and then a leaderboard page for best times. Okay, so now we have all these other components done. We've got the timer, obviously, that we had before. We have this view leaderboard button, which I can click and it brings up this leaderboard. It's got a checkpoint thing that we will modify a little bit more in Cursor, but it's a good start. We have this text box that we can use for our NPCs and so on. So now that we have this done, we need to connect it to our GitHub. So I'm going to go to settings and I'm going to go to GitHub and I'm going to connect to GitHub and I'm going to say continue and I'm going to authorize it and I'm going to hit continue and I'm going to say connect. Okay, and by doing this, I've now transferred this project into my GitHub. I'm going to view it in my GitHub. And now that I have it, I'm going to go to this drop down here and I'm going to say download zip and that'll download all of these files that we just made. And I'm going to unzip this. So now I'm going to copy this folder that we just extracted and I'm going to put it into my project. Inside of my project, I have this folder called examples and I'm just going to drop it right in there. So now inside of Cursor, you can see I've got this new Molten Timekeeper folder. I'm saying, please update my timed Obby overlay to match the styling of the timer and checkpoint. In the example project, I put in Molten Timekeeper main. And I'm not doing this in auto mode. I'm going to be in agent mode and I'm going to use Claude for this. Okay, and it says it's done. And I've also just rebuilt my UI because remember I'm using that build.js setup. If you followed along in the coding tutorial, you know what I'm talking about. If not, you don't need to worry about that. And I'm going to reload my server. Okay, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, it looks like we're close. The checkpoint looks decent. The timer is now on the top left, so I need to move it back to the bottom. And the timer style isn't quite right, so let's work on that. Okay. All right, that looks good. So now that it's successfully applied the style to the one overlay, I can have it just go through and do the same thing to the other ones. Okay, so I've made all of these UI changes now. So you can see the updated versions. We've got a nicer looking scene UI above the NPCs. We've got our checkpoint that's looking good. We've got our timer that's looking good on the bottom. And then if we go over to the lava rising mode, we've got our standby for transport that's looking good. And now we're in the chamber and our energy cluster sign looks better. And then if I just fly up here to a supercharge station, then you can see the supercharge stations look good too. And we've updated the leaderboard as well. So now that that's done, the other major component to the UI is making it mobile friendly because Hytopia can work on any device and the percentage of players coming from mobile is pretty high. So you want to make sure your game is definitely optimized for mobile as well. So we're going to work on that next. One thing to know about the way to do this is inside of your browser, you're going to have some sort of developer tools. So I'm in Edge, and the way you do this in Edge is just to go to these 3 dots and then go to more tools and then go to developer tools. And it's going to be different based on the browser you're on. So you might have to Google how to do it on your browser. But once I'm in here, I can change the view here. So I can go to the second icon here to change my device. So now this is how it would look on mobile, and you're going to want to refresh the page once you've done that. And so now you can see I've got this mobile control on the left side, and then if you click on the right side, you can use the camera. So I'm going to walk up to this and see how it's looking on mobile. Looks pretty good. The checkpoints look good. So I definitely need a jump button in my game, and I need an E button to interact. And then I also need a Q button to quit. So I'm going to do that now. So if you go to the dev docs, there's a little tab here for mobile, and it can explain how you can very easily add mobile controls, but you can also just prompt the AI to do this for you. So I said, okay, we need to add mobile controls to our game. We need the following controls. We need jump and we need E. We're going to add these to GameHUD.html. Please make sure to match the styling of the game currently, color and font-wise. Please refer to Hytopia documentation to handle this. And let's see how it did. So we've got the buttons here. Let's see if they work. Jump works, and let's go over here and press E. And that worked as well. Okay, so I've been tweaking my UI for mobile a little bit. I've updated some of these UIs to be a little bit smaller to fit better on mobile. I've moved a few things around. And generally speaking, I've got everything looking really good on mobile now. So I have a few additional polish tasks, really small ones that I'm going to finish up here. And then we are going to jump into the final step in polishing, which is setting up our game balance. All right, so I finished all of the little polish tasks that I wanted to do, and it was a lot of little tiny things. This part of the process can be super tedious. Just make sure you hang in there with it and get your game looking and sounding and feeling exactly like you want it to feel. So just to give you an overview of how the game's looking now, you can see that I've changed the map just a little bit. I added this perimeter around the lava lake to make it look a little bit better. I've added some on-screen like pop-ups that show up to let you know what's going on. So that says that we've started the obby. I've added one for when we cross the checkpoint. And then I've also added one for when you hit the lava. And then I've also done some polishing on mobile. Those same messages, you know, show up and are appropriately sized. And then I have my leaderboard that I can open and close. And then I have a bunch of sounds in the game that I've polished up. So I've got 13 sounds. And if I just turn on my sound, I'll show you some of them. So I'm going to start the lava rising mode. It takes about 10 seconds to get through this. I added this little in-queue UI above his head. So I've got this energy cluster sound. Get one of these gems. I've got the supercharge station sound. And so on. One thing worth noting is that there's two different ways you can play sounds on Hytopia. You can play them through the server-side code, and those sounds play for everyone. So my music is playing on the server side, and a few other sounds that happen in the lava chamber are playing server side to where everyone can hear them. But the majority of my sounds are actually playing through the UI. So I created a new UI file called game sounds. And in this file are all of the sounds that only play for your own player, not for the other players in the server. So for example, when I hit the lava, let me turn the sound back on. When I hit this lava, I only want that sound to play for the player that actually hits the lava. I don't want everyone else in the server to hear it, right? So I had to move all of my sounds around and move things into the UI that I only want playing for that specific player. So now that all of that's done, the only thing I have left is the game balance. And really, there's nothing I need to do balance-wise on the obbies because it's literally just a course. And the only really balancing that has to happen there is like modifying the course to make it easier or harder based on what you want to do. So that's not the type of balancing I'm talking about. But in my case, I also have this lava rising mode, and there's a lot of variables that go into the scoring and also like how fast the lava rises, how many shards are spawned into the chamber. I have to make all of those different decisions right now to determine how I want that game mode to actually go. So thankfully, I have this config file for the lava rising mode, and I have all of that information very easily adjustable. And I'm just going to clean up some comments really fast because this is kind of crazy looking. All right, so in this lava rising config file, I have a few things that I need to adjust. I've got the lava rise speed, and that's how fast the lava rises inside of the chamber. So if the game is feeling too difficult, I need to slow it down. If it's feeling too easy, I need to speed it up. Right now, I think it might be a little bit too fast. So let's give it a try. Actually, it seems okay. I actually think the rise speed is okay. It gives you some time to run around on each level and collect the shards. So for now, I'm just going to leave that how it is. The lava drain speed is just how fast the lava goes back down after the mode's over. So that doesn't really need to be adjusted. Energy per second. This is something that I definitely want to increase. So one of the things about games is points are free, right? It's a lot more exciting to get 100 points than it is to get 5 points, even though, you know, from a coding perspective, it costs you nothing to make those types of changes. So I definitely want to make some adjustments to this. So I'm just going to increase the energy per second to 10 for now. This is the default rate that you gain energy while you're inside of the chamber. So I'm going to put that at 10. Energy shards, these are the different values for the little shards that spawn inside the chamber. So the smallest one is giving a value of 5. We obviously are going to want to increase that. I'm going to make it like 20. For the medium one, I'm going to make it 50. And for the large one, I'm going to make it worth 100 points. And right now we're spawning 10 large ones per player. I'm going to make them a little bit less frequent. So I'm going to only spawn 5 per player. And there's 20 small ones per player. That should be fine. And I'm going to make it 10 medium ones per player. This might actually end up being too many. I need to test the game with multiple players to see, you know, if it's too many shards to do it like that. All right, energy clusters. So while you're standing inside of an energy cluster, you gain energy at a faster rate. So we just made the default 10. I think that while you're in the cluster, it needs to be a lot more rewarding because the idea behind it is to get people sitting in the same place longer to like absorb some additional risk because the lava's getting closer to you the longer you stay there. So I'm going to make it worth 50. So I'm going to make it 5 times the default. Supercharge stations. The supercharge stations are a multiplier on your score. I think I'm just going to make it double your score. That way it's easier for players to understand what's happening. I'm happy with the damage rate of the suit. I think that's it. So I'm going to save this and I'm going to see how it feels like this. All right, so grab a couple of these gems on the floor. You can see the change in the bottom left as it's going. All right, so I like how that feels. The only thing I want to do now is just check and see, like, when there's 4 or 5 people in the chamber, how many things are populating. All right, so there's a lot in here with this many players, but it should be fine because you're all kind of running around looking for them at the same time. Okay, I think it's good. I think we're good now. All right, so with that step done, we are completely done polishing this game. Obviously, once the game is live on Hytopia and we've got a bunch of players playing and we have feedback, we'll probably need to make some more tweaks to it, right? But for now, it's at a place where we can finally upload it to Hytopia and get it live and see how players react. So in the next video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, but that's it for this one. I know it was a lot of information, a little bit scattered and all over the place, but that's kind of how this polish step really is. There's just so many little tiny different types of tasks that you have to finish up that you just kind of have to power through it and check things off one at a time. As always, thank you so much for watching and be sure to subscribe if you aren't already. And if you do, I will see you in the next one.